Hello everyone, I'm Paul and welcome back. Today is part 2 of the log peeling. If you've missed part 1, please go back and either at the end of this video and check out part 1. There'll be a link for it, or there's a link in the description as well. So please check out part 1. So let's get on to part 2, guys. Okay guys, so the next tool I'm going to use is just a steel chisel. The wider the better. This is a very hard steel. And it is sharpened down, but it's not like a razor or anything like that. And the reason why I'm using that, this log here is basically a big log and the bark is fairly loose. I don't really have to get underneath it the same way as I did when I used the hatchet, as you can see here. And I just keep banging the underneath it. You can see it comes off quite easy. And you can see this one, this is what I'm talking about, all these little nubs that are sticking out. Those all have to be removed. Now you can't do that too easy with the chisel. It's very hard on the hand if you do. You want to use the hatchet for that. So you can see here the chisel's working quite nicely. It'll loosen the bark. And as I mentioned, because it's nice and wide, you can grab a lot of bark at once. Just going to rotate my log. 1 minute it's nice and sunny, and the next minute it's like a blizzard out here. Not a snow blizzard, but cold. The temperature just drops right off. That's why I've got my jacket on today. You can see how nice and easy this is all coming off. Now this log is not quite 8 feet, I can tell you that just by looking at it. But there we go, that one's all the bark has been removed. And the chisel's great for when it's much looser bark. The hatchet's great when it's tight bark. This is great when it's loose bark. Now basically I got to go through here and knock off some of these nubs. Now I just find it much easier to use a hatchet rather than an axe. It's a lot more compact, a lot smaller, a lot easier to use. Okay, so that log is pretty good. So I'm going to move on to the next log. I pause the camera every time between the tools here now because I like to save a little bit of time. What I do, as you can see here, I remove all the bark, I throw all the bark in one spot so I'm not stepping on it in the little cut pieces. So the next thing is the draw knife. This one is an older one, so it works really well. Now with the draw knife, obviously the word draw, so you're pulling it towards yourself. And this one here, you want to kind of use this tool when the bark is fairly tight, a little bit hard to get off of. Also if the nubs are pretty small, because when you're pulling it, when you hit the nubs, it's you don't want to be ramming this thing as hard as you can trying to get through the nubs. If there are nubs and you want to use one of these, basically take the hatchet and remove some of the nubs beforehand. So anyways, this one here, you're just going to get it started just to get underneath the bark. You can see here, you can see there I've got a nub. It's not too big of a nub. I'll just rip the bark here, you can see it better. You can see I can peel or rip this knife through that. So, and then I'm just going to peel a little bit here more at the end. And usually what it does, it gives me, now I can grab by hand and I can start ripping the bark off as much as I want. So I can grab again here at the top. So I can just peel a little bit here. I want to get it started again. And then I can just peel it back. Again by hand, I'll rotate my log a little bit. I'm getting underneath it again with the knife. Now, this could be slower or it could be faster to use. It really depends on how tight that bark is. Of all the tools, I think this one is probably the most workout that you're going to get. And if you notice, I started at the small end. I'm working myself down to the larger end. So anywhere that you can grab the bark like I did on there underneath, you just keep loosening it. It just makes the job a lot easier. And here I'm going to take off a little bit wider path. You can see there I've got it started. Always try to peel it by hand first instead of trying to use the knife all the way down. It'll help to speed up the job a lot. I'm going to rotate the log a little bit more. I like to get all the top done before I finish on the bottom, or the larger end of the log. Mind you, this might be the slower one to use, but it's actually pretty fun to use it. Going to rotate the log. I'm going to pull it up. It's slippery. There we go. Okay guys, that's another log done using the draw knife. One thing good with the draw knife is if it's very smooth bark, I like to use this a lot, especially on wood where there's very few knots or nubs sticking out. Draw knife can work really good. You just go from one end of the log down to the other.